In 1975, a Kodak engineer walked into his boss's office with something extraordinary: the world's first digital camera. It was the size of a toaster. It weighed 8 pounds or 3.6 kilograms. It took grainy black and white photos, and it was about to change photography forever. The executives looked at it. They looked at each other, and they asked one question: why would anyone ever want this? That decision, to bury their own invention, would cost Kodak everything. Their peak valuation at one point, $31 billion. By 2012, bankrupt. This is the story of how Kodak invented the future, then chose to protect the past instead. To understand how spectacular this failure was, you need to know what Kodak was. For most of the 20th century, the Eastman Kodak Company, or simply referred as Kodak, was synonymous to photography. Founded in 1888 by George Eastman, the company didn't just sell cameras, it created an entire industry. Their slogan said it all: you press the button, we do the rest. Kodak made photography simple. Kodak made it affordable.
Ready?
Kodak
Say
made
cheese.
it magic. By the 1970s, Kodak controlled 90% of film sales in America and 85% of camera sales. Their yellow boxes were in every home. Their processing labs were on every corner. The company was printing money. Film was expensive. Processing was expensive. And you needed both. It was the perfect business model. They were one of the 5 most valuable brands on earth. Nothing could touch them. And that's exactly when 24-year-old Steve Sasson showed up with his weird little invention. Steve Sasson was a freshly graduated electrical engineer when Kodak hired him in 1973. His supervisor gave him a simple assignment: see if you can do anything useful with this new thing called a charge-coupled device, a CCD sensor. Sasson had a crazy idea. What if you could capture an image without film? For the next year and a half, he worked on it. Nobody asked him to build a camera per se. Nobody even knew he was building one. He just did it. The whole contraption looked like something from a mad scientist's garage sale. In December 1975, it was ready. Sasson took the first digital photograph. His subject, a lab technician named Joy Marshall. The camera took 50 milliseconds to capture the image. Then it took 23 seconds to save it to tape. The photo was 100 by 100 pixels. Black and white, incredibly grainy, but it worked. Steve Sasson had just invented digital photography. Now came the hard part: convincing Kodak executives this mattered. In 1975, Sasson walked into a conference room full of Kodak executives. He brought his toaster-sized camera. He took photos of people in the room. Then he pulled out the cassette tape, put it in a playback unit, and boom, their faces appeared on a TV screen. Everyone paid attention. Finally. But the executives didn't ask, how does this work? They asked, why would anyone want to take pictures this way when film works perfectly fine? Sasson explained that this was just the beginning. Give it 15, maybe 20 years, and digital cameras could match film quality. They'd be smaller, cheaper, more convenient. The room went silent. Then the business people spoke up. Kodak made billions from film and processing. If people stopped buying film, the entire company would collapse. Digital photography would cannibalize their most profitable business. So the decision was made. Patent the technology, but don't develop it. Don't sell it. Bury it. Steve Sasson kept working on digital cameras for the next 3 decades at Kodak, but the company refused to lead the revolution it had invented. They were too busy protecting film sales. There was just one problem. Everyone else could see the future coming. While Kodak sat on its invention, competitors pounced. Sony, Canon, Nikon. They all started building digital cameras in the 1980s and 90s. Kodak finally released its first consumer digital camera in 1995, nearly 20 years after inventing the technology. By then, they were playing catch-up in a market they should have owned. But here's the thing: Kodak still couldn't let go of film. Even as digital cameras exploded in popularity, Kodak kept betting on film. They thought consumers would always want prints. They were so wrong. In the early 2000s, digital cameras obliterated the film market. Then, smartphones came along and obliterated the camera market entirely. Every phone became a camera. Every photo became digital. Kodak's revenue collapsed. The stock that once traded around $90 per share in 1997 was worth around 54 cents in 2011. In January 2012, 37 years after Steve Sasson invented the digital camera, Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company that owned 90% of the film market, the company that invented digital photography. Bankrupt. Kodak emerged from bankruptcy in 2013 as a shadow of itself. Today, it exists as a commercial printing company. Those patents Steve Sasson filed, Kodak sold them during bankruptcy for $527 million to a group of technology companies for a fraction of money what they could have been worth. And Steve Sasson? President Obama awarded him the National Medal of Technology and Innovation in 2009, the highest honor for inventors in America. He earned it. His company just never believed in him. So what happened? How does a company invent the future and then lose everything? 3 fatal mistakes. 1. They prioritized short-term profits over long-term survival. Film made money today. Digital was uncertain, so they chose today over tomorrow. 2. They feared cannibalizing themselves. Instead of Kodak killing Kodak's film business, they let Sony and Canon do it. The business died anyway. They just didn't get to control how. 3. They underestimated the speed of change. They thought digital would take decades to match film quality. It took less than 10 years. By the time they reacted, it was over. Here's the brutal truth. Sometimes the biggest threat to a successful company isn't a competitor. It's their own fear of change. Kodak had everything: the technology, the talent, the brand, the money. What they didn't have was the courage to let go of what worked yesterday to build what would work tomorrow. They invented the digital camera. Then they watched from the sidelines as the entire world switched to it. That's not disruption. That's self-destruction. Kodak's story isn't just about photography. It's about every industry facing change. The tools that made you successful won't keep you successful forever. Markets shift. Technology evolves. Customer needs change. Sometimes the most dangerous place to be is on top, because that's where you have the most to lose and the most to fear. Remember, every fortune has a story and every story has a lesson. What other money stories should we cover? Drop your suggestions in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. Until next time.